I'm thinking back on all those times when I felt closed off from all that I could become, eager but too scared to climb. Wanted to please my friends, but it felt like the end of myself. I was shut down and all drained out. I was lost, so I had to change. Yeah, I shook off all the bad vibes, cut me loose from the pettiness they turned on me. But now I am perfectly free to be me. This is who I am. This is who I am now. No matter what they saying, this is who I am. This is who I am now. They think that I have lost my mind, that I'm not being true, but they don't have a clue, 'cause this is me when I cut out all of the shallowness and everything I suppressed to fit in a small frame. But I won't play your game anymore, so I had to change. Yeah, I shook.
Hey everyone, it's Samantha here. Thank you so much for joining me today, and welcome to a brand new episode of BitLife Controls My Sims Royal Edition. I know, it's been a while. I really wanted to make sure that I brought the finale to all of you, so this is going to be a two-part series where we will be wrapping up the series, and hopefully you all will like what I have written for today's episode. So if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That way you don't miss part 2 when it goes live. Let's go ahead and jump into today's episode. So unfortunately, we are starting off today's episode in a pretty sad state. We have all of the royals here. We have royals from near and far. We have Princess Nika of Norway. We have the Denmark royals. We have our own royals, of course. We've got beautiful Phoebe here, who is mourning her grandmother. And the most important one of all, we have our beloved Lottie, and actually her son Spencer, who's super upset about the loss of our beloved— oh, did someone steal our painting? I think someone did. There was 2 photos of Madison. But yes, the loss of our beloved Queen Madison. And I'm actually not that surprised to see Spencer so upset, because Spencer is a little bit more of a wild child. He's the youngest of the royals, and I can kind of see him actually really getting on well with Madison. Madison was a free spirit, as we all know. She did a lot of things that people didn't expect from her, and I could kind of see that from Spencer. Spencer is definitely the more alternative wild child. We also have Marquis Edmund, who is the heir to the throne. He is going to be the next in line, and I have to admit, over the past few years, as he's gotten older, Edmund has definitely become a little bit full of himself and a little bit smug. So I think part of him is kind of like, well, I gotta do my duty. It is my job as the heir to the throne, after my mother, of course, to welcome and say hello to all of the other royals. And Phoebe is more of the distant, I just want to do sports. I'm not really sure what I want in this life, but I know for sure it is not this. Poor Finn, his beautiful wife has passed away, so he is the one left alone, which I'm really surprised about. But I thought that in order to make a well-rounded ending for this, it made sense that Madison would pass away. So she passed away in her sleep late at night, and she lived a full and happy life. Like I said, the two brothers of the royal family are quite different. As you all remember, Spencer is the youngest of the three children, and he has least chance of ever becoming the throne, like the head of the throne, becoming the monarch in any way. Whereas his brother is for sure going to inherit the throne one day. So these two brothers definitely have quite the interesting relationship. But at the end of the day, they do love each other. Princess Nika of Norway, of course, has stayed here because she and Edmund have grown a pretty close bond. She's already flirty. She is just eyeing him up a storm. And she is here to support him in any way possible and, you know, just be there for him. Spencer is kind of not a huge fan of Princess Nika. These two don't get along. They really don't like each other. They have a pretty bad relationship. They just dislike each other and things are really tense. But look how smug Edmund is now. In the previous episode, actually, Prince Edmund became very close with the mayor's daughter from Canada, if you remember, Eloise, and they are actually best friends. So not only does Prince Edmund have his beautiful girlfriend Nika, he also has Eloise here, who, you know, wants to be there for him through thick and thin, and she actually has pretty strong feelings for Prince Edmund. However, at the current time, she knows that those feelings are not requited because of the fact that, well, there's Princess Nika, who actually looks like she is flirting with the Denmark kids, so that's a little awkward. They're still a pretty tight-knit group of friends, even though they're all kind of starting to become their own people throughout all of this. So Spencer has brought Eloise out here, and he's just gonna say to her, like, well, I guess we should get out of here. You know, the funeral's over. Oh my gosh, we've got paparazzi and fans everywhere. Of course, because of the fact that a queen passed away, you know, this isn't something that is a super private event, unfortunately. And yeah, see, he's really mad. He really does not like having the paparazzi follow him around, so he's really angry. So he's gonna say to Eloise, like, Eloise, do you want to get out of here? Like, we could go get a drink, you know, maybe go have a coffee together, maybe just, you know, get away from everybody. And Eloise is gonna say to Spencer, like, you know, Spencer, I would love to, but I can't. Like, I can't leave Edmund. Like, I have to be here for him. And Spencer's gonna be like, what do you care about Edmund? He's with Nika. Like, why can't you just come hang out with me? She's like, I could never leave him. I promised him I'd be his best friend for life. And he's like, yeah, well, I can see that his loyalty is really shown to you. So he's definitely annoyed, and he's gonna take off. He's like, whatever, like, waste your time on him, Eloise. And he's also gonna say to her, like, by the way, you look like my grandma. So he's kind of getting a little mean because he's a little annoyed that Eloise won't leave to go hang out with him. And Eloise is just gonna say to him, like, whatever, Spencer, but I will say one thing. You do clean up nice, and it's actually really cool to see you in your outfit. So even though he tried to get her going and, you know, kind of poke the bear and offend her because of the fact that she wouldn't hang out with him, Eloise is such a kind person, and she would never in a million years say anything negatively about Spencer. So Spencer's enraged, he's annoyed, and you can see he's also a little flirty. So between you and I, It's actually unfortunate, but Spencer has a huge crush on Eloise, and Eloise couldn't care less. She is 100% focused on Edmund, and honestly, I think the only person Edmund really likes is himself. I'm not gonna lie, he's a good guy, but he's a little full of himself. He's like, oh, attention, hello, my fans. So there's a little bit of a love triangle drama going on. So Spencer has arrived here with his girlfriend. Well, I'm not really sure if I would call her a girlfriend, but a friend that he is, a girl that he is friendly with. Her name is Dawn, and she is a party girl. So the two of them are out here dancing. Spencer was furious that Eloise wouldn't hang out with him, so he's just like, whatever, and he is going to spend his time with Dawn and pretty much just do anything to get his mind off, you know, the fact that his grandmother, who he was very close with, passed away, but also the girl he has really strong feelings for, couldn't care less if he exists or not. And Spencer has spent his entire life living in his brother's shadow, and he is so sick of feeling that way. He is so tired of feeling like he doesn't matter. And especially when it comes to the women in his life. So I am going to get him to go ahead, and he's going to make a drink for himself, and I think he is going to have, you know, a late night just doing his thing. Oh, and apparently he's just gonna kiss Dawn. They just had their first kiss, so that's great. Oh my gosh, we have Harrison's ghost again at the party. It wouldn't be BitLife if we didn't have someone's ghost at the club, right? So the two of them are at the club, and just, he's acting sloppy. He's definitely acting out in an inappropriate way. It's completely out of frustration and emotion. And it is 1 o'clock in the morning, and he is still out. Meanwhile, back at the house, we have Eloise, who is staying the night at the palace. You know, it's a really far way for a lot of these families, politician families to come. So all of them are staying the night here. We've got Eloise, we've got all the princesses, we've got cute little Phoebe, who is so sad. And Eloise is here, and she is going to try her best to comfort, you know, Edmund, and, you know, he's like, I really appreciate you being here, you know, like, I know I can get caught up sometimes in, like, the paparazzi and stuff, but I really am upset about my grandma. And she's gonna be like, of course you are, Edmund, you got the biggest heart, of course you're upset, and don't worry, when I told you I was gonna be your best friend, I meant that. And so she is, through thick and thin, always here for Edmund, and he's just like, you know, I really appreciate it. You truly are the best friend anybody could ask for, but, you know, I gotta go hang out with Mika. I don't want to ignore her. You know, she's important to me, and she's came all the way to be here to support me, so I'm gonna go hang out with her. And so Eloise is like, oh, of course. Okay, whatever. So he really appreciates Eloise, but he also kind of just really has a big crush on Nika. And, you know, at the end of the day, Princess Nika is definitely much more like Edmund than Eloise is. Eloise is from, you know, a small town in Alberta, where I am from. She is a country gal, and, you know, she's just a mayor's daughter. She's not someone who, you know, has been trained for royal life, you know? So there is a huge difference. She's recognizing it. She's like, I need a drink. Oh my gosh. Oh, poor Eloise. Meanwhile, so Spencer just got home. It is 5 o'clock in the morning. Oh my gosh. Oh my god, and he looks rough. It looks like he has definitely lost the majority of his outfit, but at least he took his piercings out for his grandmother's funeral. He has a lot of piercings. So Eloise has come around the bend from the library, and she sees Spencer just got home, and she's like, oh my God, Spencer, where have you been? Have you been drinking? He's like, oh, don't worry, I'm fine. And she's like, you smell awful. And he's like, thank you. He's like, well, at least you look more like yourself, unlike whatever that outfit was you were wearing before. She's like, listen, it's not every day I have to go to a royal event. I was just dressed up, okay? Why do you have to always be so hard on me? And Spencer's gonna be like, I'm hard on you because you're constantly acting like you're someone you're not. And I like who you are better when you're just you. And so Eloise is a little bit like taken aback and like, okay, Spencer, should I? And she's like, let's try to get you cleaned up and get you to bed before your mom sees that you've been out all night. He's like, all right, thanks, I appreciate your help. So he automatically became very flirty the minute she gave him a hug. But he's gonna go upstairs. Where's his room? I believe this is his room. Yeah, this makes sense for him. So she managed to help him get cleaned up and into bed. And Eloise, her mom is playing guitar while they are a bunch of country folks. And Eloise has gone ahead and fallen asleep on Spencer's couch in his bedroom. When he was around Eloise crush nearby, being near a crush brings on inescapable romantic feelings, whether the interest is reciprocated or not. Ugh, that has gotta be so hard for poor Spencer. So it's the next morning, and Princess Lottie, who will be becoming Queen Lottie at the inauguration in a couple weeks' time. You know, during all of this, the royal family is allowing there to be a mourning period of 10 days, I believe, or 7 days. I believe the public to publicly mourn and, you know, have the queen out for, you know, for their viewers, you know, their public to come and pay their respects to Queen Madison before the inauguration will ultimately happen. So there's a little bit of time between now and the inauguration. So Lottie is just kind of getting prepared, but she's received a call urgently saying, you know, from Wade that he needs to talk to her immediately. So she's going downstairs to meet Wade right away. So she's going to go over and complain about her problems because as we remember, well, and if you don't remember, I'm telling you now, Wade is Lottie's advisor, and she kind of keeps him in the loop with everything that's always going on. And Wade is going to say to her, you know, we have a little bit of a problem, ma'am. And she's like, what do you mean? What kind of problem? He's like, well, and she's like, just spit it out, Wade. I don't have time to care about this right now. He's like, well, Spencer may or may not have gotten himself in a little bit of trouble. She's like, what kind of trouble are we talking about? And she's crying. She's like, can't my kids behave for just 1 minute? And he's like, well, you know, after the funeral, he was upset and he may have gone out clubbing and the paparazzi may or may not have caught him in some questionable photos with a questionable young lady. So Lottie is like, oh my God, could he not for once just keep himself together? Why is he constantly needing to act this way? And so Wade's like, well, ma'am, the paparazzi, like, the news people, everybody wants to talk to him and to you right away. Like the night of your mother's funeral, the queen's death, and he's out making out with this girl. Like, it's really bad. Like, and she's like, oh, fine. She's like, what do we do? He's like, we need to get him out of here pretty much right away because we need to make some space between him and the royal family right now. She's like, very well, Wade, you make the arrangements. So Lottie's coming over to speak with Spencer, and she's just gonna say to him, really, Spencer? You couldn't just keep it together for my mother's funeral? You had to just get out there and just get caught, didn't you? Couldn't you have at least done it somewhere not public? He's like, Mom, I just needed to blow off some steam. You know, Grandma's gone. She was like my best friend. And nobody else here had time for me. You all were mourning, of course, which is to be expected, Mom. Like, I'm not trying to take away from that. But, like, what the heck? Lottie's just gonna say to him, you have no respect for the royal family, for the crown, what our lives mean. And he's like, well, no, why would I? He's like, I don't have any responsibility. She's like, you have a title, Spencer. Whether or not that title gives you any true governing powers doesn't change the fact that you are a royal and you need to start acting like one. And so Spencer's feeling pretty upset, and in the process, because Eloise spent the night, she's here, and she looks absolutely ridiculous, clearly trying to get someone else's attention. She's gonna be like, you know, ma'am, like, with all due respect, I think Spencer didn't mean... I don't think Spencer meant any harm by any of this. And, you know, like, I'm gonna be heading back to my house soon with my family. If you want, like, Spencer could come with us, and, like, nobody's gonna go looking for him there until things start to calm down. She's like, you're such a wonderful young lady. Of course, my sons are just so lucky to have you in their lives. And she's like hoping, I think secretly, she does care about Spencer, but I do think also she's like, oh, this is a great opportunity for, you know, Edmund's mother maybe to want to have a good say about me, and that might persuade Edmund eventually. So Spencer's like, all right, I'm gonna go pack my bags, because he's really stoked. He's like, got the girl of my dreams wanting to spend time with me. Off to the country I go. So he's not complaining about it. Look, he's so excited. He's got a friend's 2 cents. Being around a sim that cared enough to give helpful advice gives Marquis Spencer a burst of energy. So he's pretty happy that he gets to get out of Dodge, get away from his mother and his brother. Spencer and little cutie pie Eloise are off to the farm. So I will go ahead and meet y'all over there in a little bit. So we have now entered the family's cottage, the family's farm, where the Canadian mayor of a certain city lives with his little family. So we do have the mayor's wife here, and of course Eloise, and they have just arrived back home. And her mother is like, honey, I am so jet lagged from that flight. Can you just please deal with Spencer, and I'll help you out later. Eloise is like, sure, no problem, Mom. So she's gonna go and, you know, tell Spencer, like, you know, it's gonna be okay. I'm gonna help you, and we're gonna get all of this figured out. And, you know, it's gonna be okay. And he's gonna be like, thanks, I really appreciate that. And so she's like, so what did you get caught for anyways? He's like, oh, who knows? I'm always doing something. And she's like, oh my gosh, Spencer, like how beautiful she is. She's like, can't you even try to behave? You know, your family's under a lot of pressure. And he's like, yeah, well, I'm under a lot of pressure too, you know. And he's like, Matt, try living in all these people's shadows and them wanting you to be someone you're not. He's like, if anyone should know it, it's you. You're constantly trying to be someone you're not for Spencer, or for Edmund. She's like, all right, that's enough. I don't need your opinion on how I handle my crushes. Thank you very much. Now go get changed because we've got a lot of work to do. He's like, what do you mean work? She's like, well, the cows ain't gonna milk themselves there, Spencer. And if nothing else is gonna change you, then maybe doing some good old chores will. So Spencer's like, wait, what? He might be a little bit of a, you know, a little bit of a wild boy, but he's not the type to be over here, you know, hanging out with the cows. So Spencer's coming over. He's actually pretty excited. I don't think he really minds because he's got a huge crush on this girl. So I think he's just happy to be near her. I don't think he really cares. And Spencer is actually quite the photographer, so it's kind of his favorite thing is photography. So while Eloise is actually doing all of the work, Spencer is taking pictures of her, and he's pretty happy. So these two are here. She's gonna help him with the whole farming situation and just trying to keep him out of trouble as long as possible. So in the meantime, we are gonna head back over to the royal family and catch up with the rest of them. So we're back at the royal palace, and this guy has been planning and prepping for a romantic getaway ever since he got to spend more time with Nika. Now, because his mom is going to be taking the throne soon, Edmund understands the importance of basically getting married and, you know, starting to create an heir pretty much as fast as possible. So he is going to go ahead and he is going to ask Nika out on a date and try to establish a stronger romantic bond. They have definitely started, but it hasn't quite grown into what he would like, and he wants to make sure that she feels as comfortable as possible with him, you know, before he proposes. He definitely has feelings for him, so it's not an arranged marriage, but with both of them being royal, they understand the seriousness of it all. Alrighty, so they've arrived here. Wow. Okay, that's a little bit smug. You're not quite the prince yet there, good sir. So he's coming in. He is going to request a table for the two of them, which really he shouldn't have to do. He's like the prince. So the two of them are having a romantic dinner together, and of course we've got the paparazzi here. We can't avoid it. But he's gonna try really hard to get to know her a little bit better and, you know, just say to her, you know, I understand. I'm gonna have him offer a rose. That usually works for Tabby. I'm not sure how well it will work for Prince Edmund. Or I guess Marquis Edmund. But he's gonna just say to Princess Nika that, you know, our parents for a long time have always thought that we would be a really great match together, and I just want you to know that I'm pretty serious about you myself, you know, not just because my mom says that I should. So I think that she liked that. She seemed to accept his rose. So let's see. He's going to go ahead and give her a kiss on her hand and just say, you know, I'm really excited and happy for the opportunity to be out on a date with you. I think that you're absolutely gorgeous, and you always make me want to be a better man. Whenever I'm going through something, you're there for me, and it just really means a lot to me to know that I have such a strong, independent woman who's already ready to take on, you know, this life with me. And she's like, well, I wouldn't have it any other way. You know, like, I was raised to basically be the queen one day of some country. You know, I would be honored if it's going to be your country. You know, they're both definitely on the same page. They both understand the importance of the royal life and, you know, what would be expected of both of them as, aw, these two are so cute. They would understand, you know, the pressures that this life has. She grew up in it, and so did he. And, you know, he is going to be the future king one day. So for him, it's extremely important to have someone who is going to understand that and be a part of that. So they have come to the top of the lighthouse by the restaurant, and Edmund is going to say to her, you know, I have waited a long time to ask this to you, and I was wondering if you would marry me. So the two of them have gotten engaged. They really have grown so incredibly close. Oh, they can woohoo. Well, I'm gonna go let them go do a little bit of woohoos because they're engaged now. So she's super happy to be engaged to him. She said yes. So not only do we have a royal inauguration coming, we also have a royal wedding coming in part 2. They're going to the woohoo room. Look at the little hearts. I never noticed that before. So these two are so stinking cute, and oh my gosh, I never realized. I think this is the first time I've ever had anyone, I could be wrong, but I think this is the first woohoo in the lighthouse I've ever had. And it seems like such a royal thing to do. I don't know, like, it's just so extravagant. Like, I've never even been to a lighthouse, let alone had a romantic dinner by the ocean and then woohooed in one. Oh, I'm so happy for him. I really do think these two are so perfect for each other. I think Eloise is gonna be pretty sad when she hears the news, but this girl seems pretty happy about the situation. She's like, okay, I'm engaged. I'm hungry after that whole lighthouse thing. Little cutie. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna wrap this episode up here, and in a couple days part 2 will be out. So I am so excited for you all to see the next part. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you did enjoy today's video, please go ahead and give this episode a thumbs up. It really helps me out and I would really appreciate it. And until next time, I'm gonna say bye for now.
But I'm gonna dive into you, and maybe I'll drown, but what can I do? And it would be alright to let me down. Rather we try than let these feelings slide.